Welcome back,
Welcome back, ow.
Lords and ladies,
to
Milk and
Screams.
Screams. This is episode 20. Kyle is just the sexiest guy in this room. This is going to be a good day, folks. It's episode 20, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
20.
Very stoked about
Spanish.
it. And to commemorate that, Jacob, I pose a challenge, a game to you that we were just discussing. I would like you to just attempt to say a sentence that has never been said in the history of mankind by anybody ever. Just try and think of anything, put a sentence out there that you think has never been said before.
The dolphins' grapes never blew up.
All right. The dolphin. Now, is that their grapes, or is that a euphemism for the dolphins' testicles?
No, they're grapes.
Okay.
They own a vineyard.
They the dolphins' grapes from the vineyard in which they possess blew up or have never blown up.
Have never blown up. Now, I bet you someone has said
those are some lucky dolphins.
No, I bet you someone has said that dolphins' grapes have blown up.
Oh, for sure.
But never blown up.
Never have the grapes not blown up.
Right.
That's where you come in. And that's how we celebrate episode 20. A random sentence that's never been said before until now.
I hope that's never been said before. I don't think so.
I don't think it's ever been said, and I don't think anyone's ever going to know. Like, if someone on the other side of the world right now was like, said that exact sentence and was like, I don't think that's ever been said before. If someone on the other side of the world
was like, the dolphin.
If someone was just like, hey, say a sentence, and that person was like, the dolphins' grapes never blew up. They could just come right here and realize that they were wrong, and they're not that special. You were special first, so congratulations.
Thank you. Do you want to take a stab at it?
Oh no, you celebrated. You celebrated.
Okay. I mean, I was just trying to share the opportunity, make you feel special.
I will say though, whenever I have thought about that before, my first instinct as well is always, for some reason, an animal.
Yeah, it's just because when you form a sentence, the first thing you think of is a noun. Instead of, an expository, so you think of a noun first, and then the noun does something, and then, something
Because I would do this a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
Especially as a kid. For some reason, that was a big thing of mine, just in my head, but never out. I wouldn't voice it to people, but in my head, I would be like, I'm going to think of a sentence that has never been thought of or said before. And it was always... the first time I did it, but then every time after that, it was always a turtle and peanut butter that showed up into my head, and I was like, I can't do those two things again. I've done it before. I got to think of something else. But it was always a turtle and peanut butter for whatever reason. Peanut butter's great, but I don't have any attachment to turtles. But I always thought of a turtle.
Yeah.
Another reason that you're special for episode 20. You're half vaxxed.
I'm half vaxxed. You're still half vaxxed, right?
I'm half vaxxed.
Do you want two things? We'll
don't.
Become fully vaxxed.
Okay, if we morph together into one person?
Well, that's the third thing.
So two actual things?
If we, transfuse each other's bloods, like if I take a vial of my blood, you take a vial of your blood, we put it in there, that equals a full vax. We'd be fully vaccinated and save ourselves a trip to...
Well, only one of us would get that full vax, though.
What? No, I see that doesn't make sense to me. And then you're going to be like, no, nonsense. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So,
well, it makes more sense for us to morph into one person.
No, okay, Kyle, how does that make sense? I have one half of a vax, and you have one half of a vax. If we put those two halves together, what do we have?
A whole.
One vax. So I'm saying, take our bloods and put them, like a little bit of my blood, a little bit of your blood into each other. And that would make us a full vax.
That would make a full vax for one person. Like if we took
Why would it not make it for all people? I'm confused.
If we took our blood, because there's a lot of problems with this.
Oh no, Kyle, stop!
If you were to take that 100% vax and then split that into two, it's not going back to half vax. We'd both get 100% vax, but it wouldn't be enough to work because obviously the dosage would be incorrect.
Right, I'm just using very simple math here. I'm not trying to make us perfect. I'm just trying to save us a trip to CVS.
And then two
would be kiss a lot.
No. I'm saying the second problem with the blood thing.
If we kissed enough, I think it would.
No, I don't want to do that.
I mean, neither. I'm just saying that would be a solution. If we were down on our luck, like, man, I just really don't want to drive to CVS again.
And also, that would not be a solution.
Why not?
That would also not.
You never know until you try.
I think I do know. I think a quick Google search would tell me that wouldn't work.
You never know. Anyways, what was your second problem with that again?
The second problem would be that these two doses are very different from each other, and you get the majority of the vaccine from the first dose. So if we actually put them together, we might have more than 100% of a vax, and we might actually just end up giving ourselves something too much of it that we don't want.
Then we probably get superpowers.
Actually, let's go ahead and do that then. If that's the case, let's just go ahead and mutate and see what happens.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm excited to get vax, bro.
Yeah. So you just got yours this past Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously we talked about it last time, I think. I got mine on the 5th, the Monday before. So in a little over a week, I'll be able to go get my second dose.
Yeah. I'm getting mine in May. So that's really cool. I'm excited about that.
I'm very excited.
I'm wondering if, I don't think I've ever talked about it on here. I donate plasma every once in a while. I wonder if I can't do that anymore because I have the vaccine now.
Maybe for a little while.
They probably won't let me.
Maybe for a little while.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
I actually don't know what the science behind that would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to call and ask. But anyways, that's kind of boring. Why would I talk about that?
Hey, that's a little life hack for for years down the road when plenty of people are listening to this and you're in college, easy way to make money is donate some plasma.
Oh yeah, it's really easy. And
go do that.
It's not fun, but it's just easy.
My uncle, when he was here in college, he did two things to make money because I don't believe that he worked. He would do two things. He would sell plasma or platelets, depending on whichever one was giving him more money at the time. And there was a place here. It was called A+ Studies or something, and you could sell your notes for a class to there, and then people could come into the store and buy someone else's notes that they had sold to the store, and then you got some of that money.
So genius.
If you didn't want to hold on to your notes because you didn't think you'd need them for a future class, you could sell them.
I'm sure now that's some kind of online service.
I think it is. Yeah,
where it's just like that's so genius.
Yeah, but he would make money off that, and he would make sure that his notes were well taken so that people would like recognize his name when they went into the store and be like, "Oh, that's Randall's notes. I remember his notes from this other class. They were really good, so I want his again."
Yeah.
So he would make money that way.
Taking notes sucks, doesn't it?
I honestly don't mind it because, like, if I don't take notes at a class, the class goes by way slower.
Really?
But if
I can understand.
Like,
that.
if I'm paying attention and actually writing, maybe sometimes I'm not fully paying attention, but if I'm at least writing what the teacher is writing and or saying, then the class goes by faster for me.
Yeah. I think, like, for me, the main thing that bothers me with taking notes is I have such a short attention span. So,
right.
Like, if I don't pay attention for like 5 seconds, I just go off into a weird train of thought, and I will not come back.
I can't do what some people do. I can't take notes on a computer. Like, I mean, obviously I can. Like, I know how to type, but I'm way more apt for taking notes with writing and being able to draw right there, which, again, my computer's touchscreen. I could draw on a Word document if I wanted to. I just really prefer it on paper for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't like typing while taking notes. It bothers me for some reason.
I think if there was a better way to do it besides Word, like if there was like an actual like note-taking app that wasn't just like you typing and then like hitting enter, I feel like that would be a little better for me, Like, and definitely not writing on an iPad is not, nearly as better, but like I don't like I tried doing it for some of my classes and like it didn't work. And I definitely didn't retain as much because it wasn't writing it down,
Right, yeah. Because obviously they talk about when you'll remember something better if you write it down.
Yeah.
And I think that applies more when you're actually writing than it does to typing.
It depends, honestly.
It depends on the person, but for me, it definitely applies more to if I physically write it with a pencil than I type it. I'll remember it. I'll remember more what I wrote than I will what I typed.
I think those tests that are done are kind of skewed in a way, and here's why. I use typing to remember things a lot, like passwords and like short little things or like little reminders. For passwords, I go back and read those several different times. So if you're doing it just once, right? If you're typing something once and then you're writing something once, I think you will retain the first time. For the first time, you retain the writing more. But over time, it'll be about the same because if you're trying to remember like a password, like for example, the safe code at work, I wrote it in my notes on my phone. If I wrote it down on a piece of paper and went back and looked at it the same amount of times, it would be the same results. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm reading it, over and over and over again. So eventually, I would be able to recall it like nothing else.
I think for me, I remember things better written down than I do typed, because like the way that I take tests after I've studied whatever's in my notebook is I can see exactly, like I can see my notebook in my head, and I can see exactly where I wrote an equation, like what part of the page that was on, and like what, you know, it was at the top third of the page, and then under that was some picture that I drew. Like I can see my notes in my head. And I think it's because I know my handwriting that I remember it better than just typing. Because like if I have an equation, like maybe I wrote a symbol a little oddly or something, and so when I see it in my head during the test, I can think of, I see that equation and I'm like, oh yeah, that symbol looked a little weird, and I remember what that looked like. Whereas typing, you know, the letters are essentially perfect because you're typing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything as easily than I do with my unique handwriting, because everything looks different and it makes it easier for me to remember, if that makes sense.
You know what's wild? There are some people who cannot see something in their head. They can't like imagine something and like have like a vision in their head. There are some people who can't. I forget what that term is. There's a term for it, but they can't visualize something in their head. So like you just described with your notes, they'll never be able to do that.
Yeah,
that's wild.
You know what boggles my mind is,
what boggles your mind, Kyle?
Just artists in general. Like if I'm an artist, right, and I can see a horse head, like in my brain, I can visualize it. I can't just draw it on paper. Like if you give me an image to replicate, I can replicate it really well. That's something I'm really good at. But if you were just like draw a horse head, in my head, I can see exactly what a horse's head looks like, and I can even imagine a sketched version of it that I'm probably adept to do. But I can't make that happen on paper unless I'm physically seeing it next to the paper I'm going to draw it on. I can't pull it out of my head and draw it like an artist can. It boggles my mind that people have that ability.
It's like the structure of the, you know, you literally have to think about the structure of the skeletal structure of the horse to draw a horse like that. Like even a human face, like to make it realistic, you have to like put depth into the nose. And then like I'm looking at your face right now, I'm trying to like think about how I would even start drawing it, and I could not even.
Yeah, like you said, depth to the nose, and like, you know, the nostrils and the cheekbones to make the nose look like it's more out than the face is, and depth into the eyes so they're not just at the same level as the nose. And
it's so crazy how people are so good at that.
Like again, we could see a face in our head and be like, I could draw that if it were next to me and I was replicating it. Not a human face. That's pretty advanced stuff. But, you know, like a horse head. Or like I have this book back home of how to draw different Disney characters. And I've drawn a couple of them really, really well. And I know exactly what they look like in my head. I couldn't just pull it out of my head and put it on paper, though. That's just impossible.
Yeah.
For me. Because I don't know how to do it. I've talked to some people about this, that they didn't used to be able to do it either, but it's something that you're able to do with practice, which I honestly don't know how much I believe that. Like, of course, I believe them when they say that's what happened for them, but for me, it seems so foreign that in my head, it doesn't matter how much I would practice that, there's no way I'd ever be able to do it.
It's kind of like me with playing an instrument. I don't think I'd ever, like, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I never have really tried.
Right.
But I just cannot perceive myself learning that so well that I'm just able to just play something.
Right.
Which is so sad because I love music. But yeah. Dang.
You know, we should just teach you an instrument.
That'd be wonderful. I would be open to that. Even if it was like just like basic keyboard.
Cool. Let's just teach you an instrument. We know what we're gonna do now. We know what we're dedicating your life to is learning the basics of the keyboard.
Okay.
If you die knowing that, you'll die happy, right?
Yeah. That'll solve everything.
Well, I don't think that we said it at the top of the episode, but it's part 2 of European Excursions. I'm going to be talking again because I don't want Jacob to talk.
Cool.
Just kidding. This is Jacob's time. This is France time. Which
Paris, France.
You mentioned a couple times last episode, obviously when we were talking about Europe, that he went to France in the same time that I was in Germany. I was there for 6 weeks. He was in France for 2, which happened to fall in my 6 weeks. So, well, I guess I'll just hand it over to you. So I'm going to stop talking for a while, the way that you stopped talking last episode, except I'll probably interject more because that's who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that. I like conjecture and talking about stuff.
Perfect.
So Yeah, my trip was a bit different than yours. And I did school while I was there, but not nearly as much as you did probably, and on a much lesser degree. Basically, to make this trip a credit, they have to like make it a, well, to make this trip happen, they have to make it a class essentially. So they like ask about your experience and your culture shock, and then they have you write an essay about it and have a journal and stuff like that. So, yeah, but it counts as a history credit, or like a not an arts credit, but like it's like a
a general ed credit of some sort, like a
yeah. It counts as a gen ed, yeah.
Okay. Did it count as like a human? Do you know what exactly like a humanities?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a humanities credit, but I mean, it was a really easy one too. A lot of people didn't finish it. Like they were just like, "No, I'm not going to do it." I was like, "Oh, well, that's a waste of money and time," because they had to pay for.
Oh,
the
so
class.
they went to France, but then they didn't do the stuff that required it to count.
Well, yeah, like they didn't like. There was a huge essay you had to write. It was really long, but that was all you had to do for the class.
Right.
You get a a passing grade, and they didn't do it. But anyways, I also had to perform several different times in France, which is something I like to throw out there once in a while if I'm ever introducing myself or like trying to impress somebody. Like, yeah,
Right.
I performed in France.
Like you got icebreakers around a circle. Hi, I'm Jacob. I performed in France. Because I'm
What'd
very
you perform?
talented.
I sung. I sung and danced.
I sang. I sung.
I sang. So to start off, I'd like to talk about my first week. That makes sense. It's so stupid. Anyways, we left from VPS. I think we flew to Tampa or one of those airports, one of the really big ones down south.
Right.
And from there, we went the 8-hour flight over to, I think we flew into Paris. That makes sense. But from Paris, so the whole first day was a blur because it was just planes, trains, automobiles. We were just traveling all day long.
Oh yeah.
It was like 18 hours of traveling total, and it was just nonstop. So we left in the morning, for the plane ride, and then when we got to there, we had to take the train like 3 hours, and that was a mess because of course we had to go through customs, right? So we go through customs as a group, but then to get onto the train, you have like 45 seconds. So the train stops for 45 seconds. You get on, the train leaves, right? So here we are, 40 kids. Who are just bewildered. A lot of them, Kyle, are dumb.
I didn't know where we were gonna go with that.
And I don't mean dumb as in like just very stupid, but just like not paying attention.
Right.
And not prepared. Joe my director has told us, hey, this is going to be a lot of heavy lifting for the men because they're going to have to lift all the luggage and move all the stuff for 40 people, and there's only like 8 of us, maybe 10 of us max. So it's going to be a lot of, grunting and groaning and stuff like that. And we're like, okay.
That's hot.
So we all kind of gather, and then I just kind of look around like, where's Joe at? And then Joe's like, ready? And I'm like, oh God.
The big high snap.
Yeah. The train comes in and just scrambling. I mean, everyone was like, what's going on? And I'm like throwing luggage, running down the corridor, like just getting it onto the train.
Right.
Trying to, I mean, it took like 45 seconds because that was the only time we had allotted because the train's on a very strict schedule. Everyone was bewildered, like, what's going on? I'm like, just sit down.
Why are you throwing my suitcase all over the place?
It was so stressful. Like I was like, okay, is everyone on the train? Does everyone have their stuff? Okay, bye. We sat down. Me and Michael played Smash Brothers for a while.
Yeah.
And there was this guy who was our tour guide that we actually met in France. But he was an American. So I also forgot to mention this. The school's president came on our trip. Him and his wife, and then they had a travel guide that they had known forever. I mean, just forever. And his name was Gary. Gary was the most gay man I've ever met in my entire life. And the most iconic gay man, I will say. He would just say the most funniest things. And I wish I could remember some of the quotes that he said, because some of them were just so iconic and so funny. We would just spout them off, like, but me and they would just talk about, like, he was sitting, we were in our little cabin, and across from us we can see Joe, Allison, our teachers, professors, and then Gary. And Gary's just talking, and like he just will not stop talking. Me and Michael are like holding ourselves laughing because it's just so funny. The way he's talking to Allison and Joe, who are just like trying to get some sleep because they're just so exhausted and tired.
Right.
It was just the funniest thing. And then we have to get off the train, and no one knows where their luggage is at. So, like, the last 30 minutes, I'm kind of like, okay, we should probably find out where our luggage is at so we can, because, like, people who were sitting at the front of the train just kind of gave us their luggage, and we threw it wherever. So it could be all the way in the back of the train. So I was like, hey, everyone needs to wake up and find their luggage. So that way we can get off in, like, one piece. Someone left their luggage on the train, so they had to call the train company. It was a disaster.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then we got onto a bus, which was even better. We had to get on a bus, but then we drive for another hour and a half into where we got to Normandy. Now, I've never been able to say that correctly, but it is this super long French word, but it's this little island off the eastern coast of France, I want to say.
Eastern coast of France.
Normandy. It's like Normandy. It's such a weird word to say, but it's a beautiful place. It's very beautiful. It's a small little island where we're going to live for the next week. It's funny, this place has a sister city ship with Crestview, where we're both from. And the reason why
that's right.
And the reason why this whole exchange exists at all is because of that sister city ship. So it dates back to like World War I or II, I think, where Eglin did something, like the Air Force Base did something, for that for that area of France, and they've had a ongoing sister city ship ever since. And I drove by that little sign in Crestview that says City of France, Normandy, or whatever, for 20 years. Drove by and never once thought I will go there one day and live with a family. That is so. Before the trip, we bring a housewarming gift to our host family because they don't get like any payment for it. Like they just they're so hospitable and they house us for a week. They're just super nice. So me and Michael took a picture right in front of one of those signs to give to them because it was because they have signs there too. So we were like, hey, we'll take a picture there in Crestview with a sign, and we'll take one when we get to Normandy,
right?
With our host family. So we did that and gave them a bottle of wine and stuff like that. Our host parents were named Claudine and Gerard. We what was his name? We made up a name for him because he was in the military, but I can't remember the name now because it was like general in French.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it is.
I have no idea. I don't speak French.
It wasn't because I thought we were gonna call him Captain, but Captain wasn't right. Hold on, let me look up general. Hold on, it's gonna take a second. Sorry, I should have been more prepared.
I told him to get prepared, people. I said make a list, write things down.
I think we just called him General.
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 I speak French now.
Yeah, we called him General Gerard, and they were just amazing. The most insanely nice, hospitable, sweet people ever.
And they didn't speak much English, right?
That was what I was going to get into next. We don't speak any French, and they don't speak any English. Hardly any at all. Like now, there are people there who spoke English.
Right.
It's a very common language there, and they learn. Like Kyle said last week, they learn it in kindergarten. So I think maybe that may have been a thing that was introduced later. After these guys are in their 70s,
right?
So they may not have learned it, or have been 60 years since they've ever looked at English. So they didn't think about it much because they didn't think they would ever need it. We were their first hosting, like the first people they've ever hosted in their house. Their little house was so beautiful. I go back and look at memories of that stuff and pictures and stuff, and I just get like dumbfounded at how beautiful the island is. So Claudine and Gerard, they have a nice little house, and we come in, and the first thing I notice when I come in their house is there's this pillow on their couch that just says the word no, N-O.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that's such a funny, like I'm thinking it's like a quirky little mom pillow. It's just like instead of saying live, laugh, love, it's just no.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, that's actually really funny. And I tell Michael, and he's like, that's actually it's kind of funny. I took a picture of him holding it one day, and like we were just like, and then we go into town square one time just to go shopping with the family. They went to like the farmers market to go look at which by the way, all their food is fresh. It's all housed on the island. So like if they get mussels or like oysters, they're from the island. The cows, potatoes, everything, they're all on the island. Like there's nothing from the outside. It's so cool. It's so good. We go into the town square, and all the merchandise that they have there, like every shirt says no on it. And I'm like, why does it all say no? I was so confused. Why does it all say no? And we realized that's just the abbreviation for Normandy. It's the first two letters. we were just in there. We were like, why does it all say no? We realized it. We're like, oh my God, we're so stupid.
But honestly, that's comedy gold. It's just a bunch of shirts that just all say no, and pillows that say no, and blankets that say no.
It's just so funny. Like I can't believe we thought that.
And signs that say "Welcome to No."
Welcome to No.
Bienvenue. No.
So yeah. I told myself whenever I went to France that I was not going to refuse any food given to me. I was going to be open-minded, experiment, and I right now recollecting cannot remember a single bad meal I had. Every meal I had was the best meal of my life.
That's pretty insane.
Like especially with Claudine. Claudine was just this incredible cook, and it wasn't like she was just trained, and it was just very simple.
Mm-hmm.
They took us to the farmers market, like one of the first days we were there. We arrived. Of course, we were just exhausted, but they gave us like duck pate, which is just not like the most appetizing thing ever, but it's just like pate. They gave us saucisson, which is sausage, but it's very, very different sausage than Germany or anything Western.
Right.
It's very dry, and like it's got pieces of like fruit or nuts in it. It's just the most delicious thing. And of course, fresh baked baguettes, bread, and stuff like that. And everything was great. Next day we went to the farmers market, and Michael loves oysters. They got a huge bag of oysters. I have always thought of oysters as snot rocks, so I was always apprehensive. I never really tried oysters, so I guess that would be what you could call the worst meal. But they had other stuff to eat too, so I was eating that stuff,
right.
with the oysters. But other than that, I told myself I was going to try it and give it several different tries. I did. And we went to the butchery, and I had a translation app on my phone because they were like, pick whatever cut of meat you like. I'm like, what? So I looked down, and I'm like, okay, I know that's a tenderloin. I'm not going to ask for that. It's really expensive. And I kept going down the line, and I was like trying to find remember what cuts of meat, I know.
Right.
Sirloin, and sirloin is different in Europe than it is in America. I'm like, I don't know. And I'm looking at the translation app, and I was finally okay, fine, tenderloin. Just give me tenderloin. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. They gave us, they cut it up and gave it to us. And it wasn't like she just had this amazing technique, Bobby Flay or anything like that, but she cooked it for us with some little tiny potatoes that they grew on the island. Every time we drove past a potato field, Gerard would go, patat, 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 patat. Which is, of course, potato in French. It was so cute. And it was the best steak I've ever had in my entire life. The best steak.
Yeah, I had the best steak I ever had when I was in Germany.
I was just floored. I was like, this is so incredible. And of course, these people love to watch us perform. That's why we get invited every 2 years to go to France. So we did a couple different things. We performed madrigal stuff, which would be our standing choir stuff, in a lot of different churches there. All the churches there have been there for centuries, so they're just beautiful, beautiful churches with amazing acoustics. Of course, I got to see all these girls do these amazing arias there. And this was also the same year that the Notre Dame Cathedral had that huge fire.
Oh, right. It had just happened right before you guys went, right?
Yeah, so we didn't get to go in there, but we got to sing because a lot of us were in the Notre Dame, Hunchback of Notre Dame musical. It was very easy for us to learn that the opening of Notre Dame, but modified. We modified some of the lyrics because obviously that's based on the musical.
Mm-hmm.
We modified it to say like inspiring stuff, and we translated it from English to French so they could understand it, and there was just tears all over. Every time we sing that song, it was beautiful. We went to the beach one day. We had this weird, like this super huge picnic at this guy's house, and he had this sangria fountain.
A sangria fountain.
Yes. This guy had this huge fountain in the center, and it was just pouring sangria. I mean, he must have spent like, I don't know. It was never stopped pouring
That's
sangria.
so weird.
Well, obviously it doesn't always pour sangria, but like whenever he has this huge party, of course.
Right,
probably,
yeah. He's just pumping sangria through whatever system he's got.
Yeah, and it's this beautiful, garden area. Right across the street is the beach. So we, of course, get absolutely plastered and waddle over to the beach. And we play and have fun. We take pictures. We do goofy college stuff. And eat picnic style with our host families. It was just beautiful. The beach was amazing. We went to this museum where we had the museum was really cool, and it was like this huge castle. The castle had been there for thousands of years, but they had artifacts in the castles that like went into like millions of years old that are carbon dated. Like I don't think I've ever seen anything that old.
Right.
It was like a piece of like a spear and like some other stuff. They didn't have fossils, but they had like artifacts of like humans making stuff, and then they just had that. I was just blown away. It was awesome. And then we sang more and more churches.
Yeah, one of the museums that I went to when I was in Berlin, we went to the history one and the art museum. And yeah, the history one, I had the same experience. You're looking at all this stuff like the first people were making.
Yeah.
And they've got those artifacts just sitting there. And there was this one skeleton of like this old type of caribou that, I kid you not, this thing was like 12 feet tall and like 9 feet long. Like, it was ginormous. And I was if this thing existed today, I wouldn't want to live on the earth because that's terrifying. And I never want to encounter one ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing all those things that's just that incredibly old in these museums. Yeah, I had the same experience. It was, especially when a museum is quiet, just looking at those things and reading about them are really breathtaking.
It is. And I haven't even gotten to Paris yet. We went to several different places in Paris that just absolutely took my breath away.
Oh yeah.
And I can't even picture it in my mind without tearing up, but my picture in my mind can't do it justice from being there.
Oh no, definitely not.
So this goes on. Now, I will point out, before this whole year we've been practicing, our shows and getting ready for this trip. And all these people I've talked about, our teachers have said, you're going to love your host families and you're going to cry whenever you leave. And I'm like, you guys are full of shit. There's no way I'm going to fall in love with these people over a week. I'm going to, go there and leave. And everyone had that same thought. These people changed my life. They're just the sweetest people, and they bonded with us. They helped us. They took us from place to place. They just were our parents for a week.
Yeah. And
it was just amazing how hospitable and great they were. And of course, I'll get to the emotional stuff later. I almost forgot. This is the most funny part of the whole trip. One point we got to go to a middle school. We went to two different middle schools, but we split up. And one of our groups was really fun, and one of our groups was not, and I was in the fun group. We went to this middle school, and we got to teach some of the kids English. We got to bond with some of the kids, teach them about Florida, and just go out and play with them after they were done with the class. So we're all they told us though is that we're gonna go to school, and we're like, well, what are we gonna do when we get there? Like, what are we gonna, like, are we gonna teach them? Like, are we gonna sing to them or what?
We're gonna sing to these children.
And they were like, no, you're gonna, and so okay, and we arrived. The first thing they do when they see us, all the kids are outside. They're standing there like, ooh, kids, they're just being dumb. And they sing us the American national anthem. Super, super sweet. We don't know the French national anthem.
Of course not.
Of course, they sing that one too. We go into their classrooms. They're like, okay, we'll divvy off here, and blah, 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 blah. We go in there, and the teacher, of course, speaks English. She's like, talking to us. She's like, so, does someone want to come up here and, teach the class about Florida? We have a slideshow set up. Michael's like, gotcha. Michael gets up. I have a video of Michael just floundering in front of these kids. It's just like, being, derpy Michael.
Of course.
Pointing at stuff and like, oh yeah, this is our flag. And, the kids are laughing. It was just so much fun. And everyone loved Michael. All the kids. They just adored Michael. Thought he was the funniest thing on earth. And, eventually, we go to lunch. After we've been playing outside and stuff like that, we go to lunch, and they feed us and everything like that. All of us are sitting at the table, all the college kids. And then Michael eventually goes and sits with some of the kids and just hanging out with them and talking to them. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, these kids are like attached by the hip to him. Like they're never gonna let him go, and it's gonna get kind of creepy and scary. Like not in a weird way, but it just gets that way with Michael. And the kids are like, "Can we take a picture?" Everyone, now there's crowding, and take a picture. So I grab my phone, and this moment is forever captured, like in video. I watch it probably like once every couple months. I definitely go back and watch it, but I watched it a million times.
Really?
Yeah. There's a horde of kids around Michael, and someone's taking pictures, and I'm behind videoing, and everyone said, and Michael was like looking around, like, okay, everybody, 1, 2, 3, and instead of saying cheese or whatever, they all say 1, 2, 3, and go, Michael, and you just see the look on Michael's face. He's just like, I don't know what I've done. Like, it was so surreal, and we were just like dying laughing. Like it was like out of a movie. Like this, cult of children just like followed Michael around like he was
they all got together outside of you guys and got, let's scream Michael if we get a picture.
Like it was just so funny. And afterwards, they went outside and we played games with them and we took a huge picture. It was really, really fun. And a lot of those kids asked for our Instagrams and our Twitters and stuff like that. And like, of course, they were much younger than us, so it was kind of weird, but we were like, yeah, go ahead. And of course, I think slowly but surely we kind of blocked them, stuff like that. Because it's very weird to have someone, because a lot of people like we're crushing on the American boys, and that's just kind of we definitely want to separate ourselves from
right.
That. So of course now I don't think any of them follow me or interact with me at all, but there were some really cool kids. Like they were just super fun. And then we come to our show choir performance, which was like a whole day of just nonstop, like rehearsal, setting up, and the microphones that we didn't bring our own mics. They had to provide them, and like that whole system was all messed up. It was mind-numbing how long we were there in like their little convention center performing all day. It was just mind-numbing. But the payoff was just absolutely incredible. Because that show actually meant a lot to us. Like it was just a wonderful assortment of songs. For those of you who don't know, I was part of a show choir. So basically, we would sing and dance at the same time. It's just the difference between that and like a madrigal choir or like a standing choir. So this one in particular had like kind of a narrative to it. It was like a basic high school musical, if you want to call it that. Very basic, the writing didn't win any, awards or anything like that. But I think the reason why we just got so into it is just because the music was so well put. I think it was just, and we just, grown together so much as a group, as an ensemble. And we got to those last couple songs and some emotions.
Was that the last time that you were going to be performing those songs?
Yeah. We were going to perform madrigal stuff for a couple more, days.
Right.
And that stuff again doesn't really mean a lot to us. I mean, it does to other people, but to the show choir, it's we got to perform that one time basically. So, and that was what we've been training for all year to make sure that was perfect for these people. And we actually performed 2 different shows, which is the first time that they'd ever gotten that treatment. We'd always only done one show. By the end of it, we're like panting, like we'd been there all day. Like, we're still exhausted because their sleeping schedule is so different than us.
Yeah.
Of course, we were doing stuff early in the morning, and they were getting up with us. But they still eat dinner at like 10 o'clock at night. They don't eat, and they drink wine with dinner. So it's just dinner has always been like a late affair. So we were all just so tired. But like the payoff for that show, performing for these people and them just clapping for us, and we're like, it's always the last show that's just so emotional. And it was my last show choir show ever. So that made me tear up as well, because I'd been doing show choir at that point for almost 5 years, right? 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 years. So it was a very emotional time. So after that, I get to talk about Puy de Fou.
That was like that big, almost carnival type thing you're at, right? Yeah.
So this is so hard to explain, but bear with me. So imagine Disney World. Okay. It's like the size of Disney World, honestly.
I have my eyes closed and I'm imagining everything.
But
really put me there.
It doesn't have any rides. It has instead shows. Just shows. So imagine like Disney's musicals, but like on a monumental scale.
Okay. So it's like the size of Disney, but replace everything with shows.
Yes. So, you have the travel guide with you, and it's a map, and you're walking over to the next ride. It's the same distance. It's like nature and, stuff like that. And there's, decorations and, music. It's carnival. I mean, carnival food. It's the same thing. But instead of rides, instead of waiting in line for a ride, you don't wait in line. You get right in and you sit down and you watch a show. The shows are breathtaking. They are spectacles. They're like nothing on earth. I cannot express to you how incredible they are. They're all historical shows. So one of them was like the Three Musketeers, and you go walk into this huge it looks like the Buckingham Palace. It's this huge like palace. You walk in, you come in, and the stage is probably like 800. No, like it's probably like 2 football fields wide, and they do horse dances and they do like water tricks and stuff like that. Like it's like stadium seating, so there's like a couple thousand people watching at once. Like it is just incredible. They did this huge Coliseum show where it's literally the Coliseum. It's like this huge, I don't know what to call the building, but it's it's a Coliseum. You walk in, you get into the stands, just like a stadium, and you're watching gladiators fight in real time. You watch real lions jump and stuff like that through hoops, and animals parade. It is just like historical, and the whole thing is they're not like live performing, or they're not live orating. They're mouthing, and they're using their pantomiming essentially, and everyone, there is a live speaker that's playing the music and they're playing the words in French. But you can download the app, and if you have headphones, which they of course all told us to bring, and they actually, I think they provide you with headphones at the park too. You could put headphones in and listen to it in almost any language. So it's synced to the show. So, I start watching the show, I hit play, and it's the same show, but it's just played to me in English, so I can understand what's actually happening. And, normally, like, if it's a Viking show, which there was a really cool Viking show, I know what's happening, so I really don't need to listen to the English translation. Like, the Vikings are going to come and
they're going to yell, and then they're going to
steal the Holy Grail, and, that show was so amazing. But that whole day, I don't think, like I said, I this is a common term I use, I don't think my bottom lip touched my top lip. Like, I was just like gaping mouth the entire day. Everything was just, and they described this to us, back when we were in Crestview, like yeah, we're gonna go to this music park. It's like just shows, and we're like, that is the most boring, dumb thing. And Joe was like, you're going to love it. you're never gonna forget it again, and I sure haven't since then. It was absolutely amazing, and they are thinking about, or they're in the process of making a Puy de Fou in America.
Really?
With the American history instead of the French and European history. Which
That's kind of lame.
I don't know. I would love to see it. I don't know how far into the process they are. This has been something they've been talking about. The whole thing, the whole legend of it is really cool too. So this guy, long time ago in like the 1900s, I can't remember exactly.
So long ago.
I can't remember exactly. It wasn't like in the 80s, but it wasn't like in the 20s. This guy was like, I want to do a show. This is very, very basic. Like, this is very, condensed. I want to do a show, this, that. And he hires a bunch of people without telling them he doesn't have any money to run the show. But he's like, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a legendary affair. Like, this is going to last forever. I have this idea about doing a show about history and stuff like that called Puy de Fou. I promise you, if you do this for free for me, this whole cast of people is listening to him, if you do this for free, just for the love of art, for the love of history, I will make it worth your while. We will make history. This will be the best show ever, etc. This could be a movie. I mean, literally, it's amazing. And they all agree. And, of course, now we know what happened. Puy de Fou became this legendary park that people go from all over the world. People go to Puy de Fou. All over the world. And
do people come to perform in Puy de Fou from all over the world as well?
Yes. Horse riders, falconers. There was this huge bird show that was there that just probably at one point 10,000 birds, and I'm not exaggerating, were flying above us, circling us in this little Coliseum thing. I mean, it was breathtaking. Every year they do one show in tradition where they all, one day of all the people who work there perform for free. It's just part of their tradition because of how
it all started.
And how dedicated they are to the arts.
Right.
It's so beautiful. And I literally will never ever forget Puy de Fou. And I want to go back so bad.
Really?
I could go to France and do like one of two things. I would love to go back to Paris, but I would go to Puy de Fou first. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And I would bring, friends, because it is so much fun. It is so breathtaking. I have videos of stuff, and I'm behind the camera, just dumbfounded at what I'm watching.
Like when you rewatch the videos?
Yeah. Well, I mean, both. I'm still dumbfounded by watching the videos, but like I just think about myself behind the camera, just being like, what is happening?
Oh, like as you're videoing it, you're like, I won't miss anything with my eyes or my camera. I don't know what to do.
Like it's like watching a car crash, like the entire time. Like it is just high octane, beautiful stunt work, and it's beautiful theater. It's just amazing. Puy de Fou, amazing. It was awesome. 10 out of 10. Probably, honestly, top 3 parks that I've ever been to. And I've been to quite a few parks. I've been to, of course, Disney and Disney Paris, which I got to. Cedar Point, which is like the roller coaster capital of the world. Like I would put it up there, like way past all the other stuff. Okay, now we get to the sad part,
which is
leaving my host family.
Right. So you said a week earlier. Were you with them for a week and then not with them for the second week? Okay, yeah. I see.
So we were with them for the whole week, and then we moved to the more touristy stuff. After we got them with all the performing and stuff, we could do like history tours. We went to beaches in Normandy. We went to Paris, Cannes, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, this day was amazing. They brought us this cake, and it's actually a pretty popular cake now. It loosely translates to king's cake in French, but I can't remember the French name. But it's like these little bonbons. They're like little circular little cakes, and they're not filled or anything, but they're really sweet. And they stack them into like a little tier, like a little pyramid.
Right.
And then they drizzle it heavily with like hard caramel. So they melt a bunch of sugar and they drizzle it on top, and then they do like dollops of whipped cream and then crushed caramel on top.
You mean caramel?
I'm not even gonna address it. One of the best cakes I've ever eaten. It's just so delicious. I love caramel.
Caramel.
Did I say caramel?
Yeah, you say caramel. I don't like it.
Okay, caramel. Sure. Caramel. I love caramel, and we made lunch and everything. It was just delicious. We're spending, the rest of our day because we had just been, nonstop the whole week.
Right.
We got the first 2 days there. We're like, eat food and go around and tourist, and then performance, point of food, and we're back. And we're like last day, so we're spending it with our host family, eating lunch, and they bought us Asti. Asti is, I want to make sure I get this right. It's like Italian champagne. It's the same style of drink, but champagne is only actual champagne if it's made in the Champagne region of France. So no one else can call it champagne if it's not made there. So Asti is the same drink, but it's made in Italy. It's actually more expensive in some areas, like if it's made right. So they buy us Asti, and we're like, man, they're like really treating us like royalty. Like it's just the sweetest thing ever. It's amazing. So we get that, get some white wine. We're drinking. And I forgot to mention this. Well, I'll get that in a second. Sorry. So Michael, since we're talking about Asti, is trying to tell them in broken French and English what a mimosa is. He's like, yeah, mimosa is like orange juice and champagne. It's like, a really popular brunch drink in the Americas. And they're like trying to understand. It's like, no, like jus d'orange, and he's trying to, tell them. And they say orange liquor. And Michael's like, yeah. Because again, we're still tipsy. So they bust out a flask of Cointreau, orange liquor. Me and Michael kind of look at each other. We're like, okay, we're doing this. They start pouring us shots of liquor. We throw them back, and we are just, at this point, we're really, really drunk. And when we first got there, we were doing a little tour of the house, and we noticed that there was a really, really old accordion sitting on one of the mantelpieces. And Michael's like, that's an accordion. And I was like, that's so cool. I was like, who plays the accordion? And Gerard was like, me, I played the accordion. All right. He basically said, I played the accordion when I was much younger. And we're like, dude, you should play for us. It'd be so much fun. And he's like, no, I don't play anymore. I don't play. And Claudine was like, yeah, he hasn't played for me in this many years. We could finally get that out of him. We're like, and like we go over eventually to their son's house where they have, brunch and stuff like that with them. And we like, does he play the accordion for you? He's like, no, he's never played for me. And we're like, what? Like, we gotta get him to play the accordion. So again, shots. We're drunk. And we see Gerard go and grab the accordion, and we lose our ever-loving minds. We're like, it's like we're seeing Michael Jackson in '83.
Because you and Michael are both a little bit hammered at this point. So
we are blown away.
So he grabs it, and you guys are definitely going,
like, yes! Yes! We're just crying. Like, literally, yes! And he's like, just like riding a bike. You just never forget those kinds of things. And he starts playing like sailor songs, and me and Michael are swaying back and forth, and these guys, they're also just so funny. Like they're just, so goofy and like, quirky. Like their, French stereotypes are just so real,
Right.
We're trying to like, discover music with them. Like, what music do you like? They're like, oh, we like David Bowie. Like, oh, I know David Bowie. We, play songs with them on like,
start the fire.
And we just, videoed ourselves swaying back and forth while he was playing the accordion. I watched those videos again all the time. Claudine was, tears down her face. She was just like, so overwhelmed with emotion because she hasn't heard her husband play the accordion in so long, and it's just so emotional and beautiful. So after that, we get ready to leave. We were trying to leave like in the afternoon to drive to Cannes, which was just like our staying place for like a day, and then we're gonna go from there to Paris. On the way, we're gonna visit the beaches, Normandy, and etc. So, we're packing our stuff up, and Michael's like, we're just chattering on and on.
That's how you guys talk to one another.
La, 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 la. We get onto the bus, in their car. We go, and we're in the little plaza in the front of the community center, and we're just kind of waiting for Joe to tell us to get on the bus. And Joe is, we just learned, Joe is leaving the arts center at Northwest. He's leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and we literally learned this on the trip. So this is his last show choir performance, which again makes us well up with tears because he's been doing show choir for so long, and this is the last time he'll ever come to France, probably. Maybe not, but because he's been going to France for 20 years as well.
Right.
So he knows people there, so he might come back and visit, but it's gonna be a while for sure. So Joe's very emotional. He's like, "All right, get on the bus." He's crying. All of us are kind of like, oh, this is what they were talking about. So we turn to Claudine and Gerard. I see Michael start tearing up. I'm like, oh no, like I can't, Michael, you let me down. And I have cried harder, maybe twice than that. It was just such an emotional roller coaster that entire week, but that was the culmination. Just, I was so gonna miss them. And that year they sent me a birthday letter, like in the mail.
Wow.
Because they have our address and stuff like that, from the pen pal and stuff like that for the whole year. They write me messages on Facebook. Whenever Corona broke out in March, they sent me a message on Facebook, said, "Hey, I hope you guys are okay."
That's so cool.
I was like, "You guys are the best!" Like, it was just amazing. So after they started scooping out the tears from the bottom of the bus,
Right? Yeah.
Because there was a little puddle, on the bottom.
Yeah,
of the
you guys
floor.
were waterlogged.
We were waterlogged. After they did that, we departed for Cannes, where we got to a hotel. Not the most glorious hotel ever.
Do you know if was it a hostel or was it just like a straight up hotel?
I have no idea what a hostel is.
It's like a hostel is basically a hotel, but they're all throughout Europe. They're like they're hotels, but they're typically worse.
It may have been a hostel, but
sometimes they're just kind of like in the direct middle of a city instead of kind of like in the outskirts of it.
It was a very small room. Very small, and I think the three of us had to share it, and I was on the ground. I just didn't get any sleep, but we played laser tag at some point because we were just looking for something to do, and we found a laser tag place, and we all kind of like walked through Cannes, Cannes a beautiful city. Walked through Cannes to the laser tag place, Camden, whooped our butts in laser tag. Shout out to Camden, and we. After that, we went back to the hotel, and then the next day we left for the beaches in Normandy, which was another emotional roller coaster, to say the least. I don't think I ever told you this. We go there, we go to the memorial site, where they have the sea of white crosses, because it's such a bloody day. All the American soldiers and stuff like that. But this is like the 75th anniversary, I think, was that year. So Donald Trump was actually preparing to come to Normandy like the week we were there.
Oh wow.
So it's kind of a weird timing, we sang Amazing Grace and another really sad song there, and it was just very solemn, very emotional. There was no one else at the park, like in the park, the memorial. No one. It was just us. After that, we went to the beach where the Omaha beach where they stormed, the place, and they have a huge monument there for the soldiers. And people often take sand from the beach, and take it home with them. I don't know why, but I did that.
You did or did not do that?
I did not do that. Dang it! I forgot to talk about the salt. It's okay. We'll skip it. Basically, the island that we were on has a huge salt. I'll go ahead and talk about it because I don't care.
All right.
We're backtracking a little bit now, but the island of Normandy is famous for its salt. It has this archaic, ancient method of mining salt, where like they scrape the earth literally to get salt out of it, and it's the most pure salt like in the world. It's called fleur de sel, and you only get it in Normandy, as far as I know. It's like I don't like saying you have to taste it, because obviously you really can't unless you buy it from there. It doesn't taste like anything else on earth. It doesn't. Like Himalayan salt, you have all these like famous, not famous, but just different salts rather than your like typical table salt. You're like, oh, okay, that's still the same thing. It's just more flaky, or I think it is the chefs from all over the world seek it and use it for their recipes. It is absolutely amazing. We got to see them harvest it, and there's, I took some home with me and used it for various cooking purposes. But I don't remember where I was going with this because I went backtracked.
Right.
So salt, and then what was I maybe think of that?
I'm not sure because you were talking about picking up sand.
Sand at Omaha Beach. Okay, so after that, right? Okay, and this is the crazy part of that whole day. So we're walking back from the memorial, and we see some guy. He's very suspicious looking. And then he runs across the gravesite, pulls his dick out, and starts peeing on the graves at the memorial. And we're all just standing like, what the F? Like, what? Like, it was just the most, like, wild thing. Like, you just hear about that on the news, but you never, like, ever imagine seeing it happen.
Right.
And security guards came and just ripped him to shreds, like, tackled him and, like, put him in handcuffs, obviously. But we're just like,
you should have joined in on the fun. Just punched him. Just a lot.
It was just like the most jarring thing. Like we went to singing like this super solemn song to watching some guy whip his pee out, just
and pee
and urinate everywhere. As far as culture shock goes, right? Culture shock really didn't come until I went to Paris. And I guess I can talk about this in a little bit, but I don't feel like I was that non-acclimated. Like I was like, okay, this is normal. Like this is kind of like destined in a way. They have a tourist season. We were just not there during tourist season.
Right.
So it, it's all kind of the same. But for a lot of the time that I was, okay, I'm sorry. I'm kind of going crazy now with my trains of thought. After we went to the Omaha Beach, we went to Mont Saint-Michel. Mont Saint-Michel is this beautiful world attraction. It's in France. It's this beautiful cathedral. It's been there for like, I want to say, I think like the original building, like the original like foundation of Mont Saint-Michel dates back to like only like 500 or so years after Christ walked the earth. Like that the assumed time that Christ walked the earth.
Right.
Like that's so old. And then like after that, of course, it's been added on. Now it's a tourist attraction, so there's like shops and stuff like that there. But it's still a active monastery today. Monks and stuff still live there. So, which is kind of weird for me to think about because they sell stuff. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But that place is gorgeous. And then of course after that, we made our way to Paris. So Paris, we did a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time. Like we only had 3 days there. We went to the Louvre. The Louvre was amazing, but the only thing that was bad about it was how I put this: the 14 million people that were also at the Louvre.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about the Louvre that I didn't know: the Louvre is the biggest museum in the world. Mm-hmm. It takes up like 6 city blocks. Like it's not like a building. It is like Central Park.
It's basically a neighborhood.
More than that. It's like Central Park in New York City. Like it's a huge chunk of Paris. There's like a couple million pieces of art that are in the Louvre, and only like 6% of that is on display. And every single square inch of every wall has art on it. It's not like there's a painting and then you move on and then there's a painting. It is literally from top to bottom, every room you go into, and there's just, we didn't even go into most of it. Like we did like an hour tour, and we went to like, we continuously just kept walking, like power walking throughout the entire thing. We're like looking, statues. Like we're just like, gandering. But there's people everywhere, like so many people. And we didn't even so we saw like a percent of the Louvre.
Yeah.
And we saw so much. We saw the Mona Lisa,
of course,
and we saw
which from what I understand is very small.
Yeah, and it's funny too. This is a very juxtaposing thing which I just said, because it used to be in a different area, but they moved it into its own room. And like I said, every square inch of these 100-foot ceilings. Every square inch is covered, painted on the roof. Ornate, little things on the ornaments and stuff like that. Paintings all up and down, huge paintings. I mean, just everywhere. And the Mona Lisa is in this 100-foot by 100-foot room. Maybe it's the floor is maybe I don't know, 500. No, it's more. It's like 1,000 square feet, right? There's a sea of people, and then all the way over there, behind some glass, is the Mona Lisa. It's all white walls. There's nothing else in the walls. I think they were just renovating the room, but it was just so jarring to me that was the only painting in that room, and everything else was just so,
Did they explain at all why the Mona Lisa is just as popular as it is?
Do you not know why?
Not really.
Oh, this is something I actually know. I'm actually really excited to share this with you. Okay? There is only one reason why the Mona Lisa is as famous as it is. It was stolen. So back the Louvre, when it was first, conceived, the Mona Lisa was just part of Leonardo's collection. It wasn't really popular, and it was kind of just on the wall somewhere, and someone stole it. And it was stolen, and it wasn't noticed that it was gone for a week and a half. But then the guards noticed it was gone, and it was oh no, crap,
Dang it.
A Leonardo da Vinci painting. That guy did.
Yeah, that guy, that one dude.
I was about to say Leonardo DiCaprio, so don't go there.
Leonardo the Ninja Turtle is painting.
They're one of his paintings is missing. That's a very valuable painting. And it made news all over the world. People were, and this is way back in, way back, in the early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Mona Lisa missing newspapers and, on radio and stuff like that. And eventually it was found and returned to the Louvre. And that was what drove people crazy about. Oh yes, the finally the
majesty of the Mona Lisa has returned. The majesty of the Mona Lisa,
her mysterious stare, enigmatic gaze. All this stuff. I mean, art critics.
Her androgynous face.
Her art critics didn't like the painting, didn't like it before.
Right.
And now, because it was, stolen and returned, that it's the bee's knees.
Some one dude was like, I like it and I want it. And then they got it back and everybody was like, I also have always liked it.
I've always loved it, So,
it's just taken me up till now to realize its beauty.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why the Mona Lisa is the most infamous painting in the world.
Okay, because I was gonna say it's such a boring painting.
It's
it's just a person.
I'm really glad you asked that because it's one of the most interesting things about the museum, in my opinion. There's also just so much in the museum, and it's not what you think. It is just this enormous, mass of area of just art everywhere.
There's this the book The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I read that sometime last year or a little longer than that, and a lot of it takes place in the Louvre. A lot of the beginning takes place in the Louvre where the initial murder happens, and he lays out the Louvre really well in the book when he's at the places he's at. And so in my head I have this image of, because obviously when you read, you make your own imagery based on the words.
Yeah.
And so I have this image of what different parts of the Louvre look like even at night when nobody's there and everything's gone. I have this image of what it is, but I never then also looked up images. So I don't know what the inside of the Louvre looks like. I just know what my image in my head from this book has told me what the inside of the Louvre looks like, which is so bizarre because I know if I ever go, I'm going to be probably upset that it doesn't look the way it does in my head. Because I'm not upset, but I'm going to be like, oh, I was wrong this whole time.
It is jarring how different it looks than you think. It is jarring. Every museum that I've ever been to is the same. You walk in, there's ornate halls and the floor is, a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's very clear where you go. You walk into the Louvre and it looks like an airport.
Really?
Yeah, it's, I'm sure it didn't always look like that, but it looks like an airport when you walk in, and there's people muddling everywhere, and there's just if you want to go see the stuff made in Africa, go down this super long corridor. If you want to see Van Gogh, this is the way to go. It is just a million different jarring paths, and it is huge. I cannot express how huge it is. We did a bunch of stuff that day during tourism. I can't remember. We went shopping in France, which was wild. I never thought I would ever go shopping in France, in Paris, but I did. We went to, I don't think we went to the Eiffel Tower that night, so I'll save that for a little bit later. Maybe we did. I can just go and talk about it. Eiffel Tower was amazing. Absolutely amazing. It has a bit of lore behind it too, because it's a part of it's the World Fair. They make this one type of monument for the World Fair, and it was like nothing like anything else that had ever come before it. It was made of steel. It's the first steel thing made of in the World Fair, and all the other things. They normally what they do is they make the thing, and then after the World Fair they take it down.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things that haven't had that happen. There's like the Arch of the Triomphe that's still there. It's absolutely amazing, but like it's one of those attractions that I was talking about in last episode where you literally drive around it. It's in the middle of the street, and there's this huge 18-lane roundabout around it. And if you want to see it, you can park 18 miles away and walk up to it, or you can drive around it and take pictures of it all the way around.
Right.
Which is what we did. We got to the Eiffel Tower. It's massive, by the way. And it for however long, it was the tallest building, the tallest thing in France. The skyline is super, super low in France. And I keep saying in France, in Paris. In Paris, it's super, super low. There's nothing high except one dumb building. It was built in like the early 2000s, and it's taller than the Eiffel Tower. And it ruins the skyline. And a lot of Parisians hate it. Like they hate it because it blocks like half of the view from the Eiffel Tower into France, into Paris. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's gonna kill me.
What building is it? Is it just some random
like
a bank or something?
It's like a bank or something like that. It's nothing insane, but it's
that's so bizarre because like I think in New York there's like a code that they're not allowed to build a building that's taller than the Empire State Building or something like that. Like they have a build once this building became famous or whatever. They were like, all right, you know what? Nothing's allowed to be taller than that. This is our spot. This is our monument.
Yeah, I know that
for the city.
That was the tradition or whatever. But yeah, there's one building, literally one, and it's the only skyscraper there. Everything else a lot of it looks exactly like it did when Paris became a city in however long ago.
Right.
Like it's all it's old.
It kind of just looks like colonized Europe and not like modernized.
It doesn't look modernized at all. It's from up there. The River Seine is, looking at it that way, I think it's west, if I want to say it right, because you walk all the way around. It's like a square, and you can go all the way up to the top, and it's amazing. But you don't need to go all the way up to see all of Paris. Looking at the River Seine and seeing Notre Dame in the distance, and seeing all the arch, there's like I think there's 7 bridges that go across the River Seine all the way across, and they all are built by different architects. It's like this city was planned by artists. The city lives and breathes art. It doesn't live and breathe, money. It doesn't live. Of course, it does, but it doesn't live and breathe, business. It lives and breathes art. There's no other way to describe it. It's the most beautiful city ever. It's just amazing. It doesn't follow a strict city plan. It's not like square blocks.
Right.
It is, crisscrossing paths, roundabouts, all kinds of crazy, because it wasn't planned that way. It just kind of came together. And you see that from above when the sun's setting, and you can't get it. You can't ask for anything better. It's amazing. The last day, I know I'm forgetting something, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on before we're here for another hour.
Right.
Last thing we did was go to Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, baby.
This is something I think we could talk about a little bit extensively and go into some details, because there's a lot of similarities. First of all, they have Thunder Mountain and they have Space Mountain.
Two of the best rides.
But they're themed differently. Space Mountain is Star Wars themed. So it has like this TIE fighters when you're going on the ride, and sound effects, and it's really cool. But all the line stuff looks exactly the same as
Really?
Yeah, it's not like Star Wars themed the whole way you go up there, but it's Space Mountain and then Star Wars Adventure. So everything else looks the same, and then when you get on the ride, it's like bum 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 bum.
That's so un-Disney to have the line not themed for what they have the ride.
Because Space Mountain was there before Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't make sense for them to change the whole thing.
I mean, it kind of does, but
I mean, yeah, but it's just that's just the thing. Same thing with the Thunder Mountain was Indiana Jones, so you can tell they bought Lucasfilm and they were just like, yep, we're gonna throw Indiana Jones in there. And there's no Indiana Jones lore, anything like that on the way up. It's all the same mining stuff, and then you get on there, it's bum 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 bum. Like it's just it's the same thing. And I was with this nice little group for Disney, and it was a really really fun day. But there's a couple of things that I don't like about Disneyland Paris.
How dare you?
The food. The food was great, but there wasn't a lot of snacks. It wasn't like the Disney Mickey ears. There was none of those at all. There was no turkey legs. Of course, this is French, so I can understand them not eating like pigs like we do. But there was no like really weird special French things either. It was just like normal stuff.
The popcorn.
There might have been popcorn, but I don't think we ever stopped to eat snacks. But like we sought out the Mickey ears. We sought out the turkey legs. Like we just couldn't get those. Also, the merchandise was awful.
Really?
Like it was awful. I looked everywhere because I need to buy. Well, I bought pins, and pins they were fine. Like they were just run of the mill, and I knew I needed some pins.
Those are kind of universal.
Yeah, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy a sweater or like a T-shirt to remember. There are literally like none. And there's one sweatshirt that everybody bought. I didn't buy it. Like I was like, I'm not matching with all these fools. Like like I
came here to be different.
Well, and I was like, okay, they have like a bajillion Disney shirts. I mean, there's got to be one that I like. I mean, I went to like 8 different stores at the end of the day, and I was like, there's not a single one. I'm like, what?
That's so bizarre.
So crazy. So I think I bought a Disneyland shirt, but it does not fit me. It was
Maybe Disney doesn't survive off capitalism.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle.
Hey, if their merch is so bad.
That's a sentence that's never been said before.
I did it.
Maybe Disney doesn't survive on capitalism. The last thing I want to talk about is our hotel in Paris. I know that sounds weird, but I kind of forgot to talk about it before, so I'll talk about it now.
All right, go for it.
We had a really nice hotel in Paris.
Really?
Really nice. It's like right in this very famous square. There's this huge statue in the square. And also Paris is in the middle of transitioning from, it's been like 30 years since they started this, but transitioning from cars to all like electric or bikes, like bicycles.
Right.
So they literally have a day in Paris where there's no driving. There's just bikes and walking.
Like is it like a day per year, like a day?
Yeah,
every week,
it's a celebrated thing.
Gotcha.
They do it for green energy or whatever.
Right.
So so we're in this huge charter bus while little mopeds going around us and cars and all. Like it doesn't. The laws of traffic in Paris will never make sense to me. But they're in this square, you have all the cars that have been passing. There's this huge, little courtyard in between the hotel, and like there's like a bar across the street and a famous pizza shop and all this kind of stuff. And it was amazing. The sun didn't set till like 11 p.m.
Dude, that was the best part about Europe. The sun refused to go down. It was great.
Like people were skateboarding off the statue and like dancing in the street, and we just kind of like one night we went to the bar, but we went out and just kind of like just were tourists and just did dumb tourist stuff in the street with my friends. It was just so much fun.
I think that sentence, when you're describing a situation, I think this sentence, people were dancing in the streets, is the sentence that invokes the most joy in a scenario.
Yeah.
Like if someone's telling me a story and they say people were dancing in the streets, that is the best thing they can say to make me think good things about the situation. I don't know, but something about that phrase, it like just sparks like such an immediate thought of just pure joy in the situation.
Yeah.
Is that phrase. I don't know why, but I just want to throw that out there because you said that and I was like, oh, this sounds great. I want to be part of it always.
It was so much fun. And like I said, our hotel was just very, very nice. It was perfectly put. It was amazing. I will literally never ever forget going to France. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly amazing how much of Germany I remember, because I think the whole time that we were in Europe, we were like everything that we experienced, like good or bad or big or small. I think we both had this mindset of just like we refuse to forget anything.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna remember everything no matter what,
I should
because we're
probably
somewhere that's not America.
I should probably write all this down again as much as I can, because I feel like when I grow old, I probably will forget.
Yeah, when we first got there, they told us that a good practice was to have a journal and just kind of at the end of the day just kind of write things that happened, so you can go back and not forget even some of those little things. And I think one or two people in our group actually did that. I know the guy that was in the same room as me, my friend Michael, he was doing that every night, and he had this just big journal of just things he had written down that we did every day. I didn't do it, but I don't feel like I've forgotten anything. Like, of course, I wrote a lot of stuff down before last week's episode, and then I went back afterward and I typed up more things, and I was like, I didn't talk about this, I didn't talk about that, I didn't talk about this.
I'm going back right now.
I didn't talk about that.
Thinking about food, and I'm thinking about things we missed out.
Yeah, I had a bajillion good meals, and I had one story of just an awful meal.
The worst meal I had was probably the oysters, but I also had pizza. Now, the pizza I had was in Paris, and I had really high expectations. And not only that, I had not had pizza in almost 2 weeks. So not a normal occurrence for me. So I was like super excited. I'm like, man, pizza. We've been looking for pizza the entire time. It was really bad.
Really?
I was just flabbergasted. I was like, this place has the perfect spot in, Paris, and it's not great.
Was it a French place?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a French place.
Because in Germany, like, every corner you turned, you couldn't find a street that didn't have an Italian pizza place. There's so many pizza places in Germany that are all, like, all of their logos and signs are the red, white, and green flag of Italy. There's so many Italian places. And so we had a good bit of pizza.
So another funny story about food. For the first week we were there, obviously, they all did home-cooked meals. There was no like eating out or anything like that. So we ate with them. Everything we ate, they gave us. So a lot of people were not that lucky. As me and Michael, our host families knew what we wanted to eat and fed us very well. And even if they didn't ask us what we wanted to eat, they just kind of cooked something. It was still incredible. A lot of other people had some pretty bad experiences with the food and had some really bad culture shock. There was one night where a friend of mine asked. They didn't ask, but they were like, we'll make you American hamburgers. So like, okay, cool. So, it was hard to explain, but they like basically took the pebbled ground beef and like kind of formed it into a patty and then just kind of like very lightly seared it on each side. Like maybe turned it gray, but everything in the burger was still completely raw.
Wow.
And gave it to our friends, and they were like, we can't eat this. This is raw. It's gross, and they didn't understand how they couldn't, tell them, ew, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like it's so hard to communicate that, especially with the language barrier. But coffee in France was amazing.
I would assume so.
Amazing. I mean, unreal. Amazing coffee. Oh, and I was getting to something. So after a week of eating home-cooked meals, for some reason, all of us were like, we need fast food ASAP. Now, I wasn't like craving fast food, but I was definitely looking for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We had been, because we were very lucky, but a lot of the people were like, I've eaten fish and stuff for like a week. I need grease.
I want a McDonald's burger.
And that's exactly where they went.
Really?
We were on our way to con, and we had just found this huge gas station to go to, and there was a huge McDonald's there. And they were crying. Like literally tears of joy, like, yes, eating McNuggets and having ice in their drink. That was another huge thing for them. It was so funny.
Something very almost exactly similar happened to me.
Really?
Because in like the first 2 weeks we were there, because we had to find ways to eat, because we were there for 6 weeks and we had to pay for all of our own food. So we'd buy stuff at like a grocery store and make food for ourselves, and sometimes we'd all just go out somewhere together. There's one time we went out to this place, and it was this one part of town. It wasn't German food, or like it wasn't a German restaurant. It was, what was it? Was it Belgium? It was something. It was something similar to German food.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go in there, and we're there for like 30 minutes before someone like comes to us at all. And so we order food, and then like an hour and 15 minutes later, they come out with like 3 of the people's meals. Now, granted, there are about 13 of us, but it was like, again, like half an hour before they got to us, and like an hour 15 before they brought food, and it was only for 3 people. And then like 15 minutes later, they brought like 4 more meals out. So after about 2 hours 15 minutes is when we all had our food, except for my friend Nathan, who after all that he was like, I didn't get my food, and they were like, oh, we don't have any more orders in there. What did you order? And he was like the fish or whatever he got. And then 30 minutes passed, and we're all like kind of finishing up our food, which was really bad. Like I forget what the meal was, but some people got like this bowl that had this gray sausage in it. And to my friend Andrew, it was legitimately the worst thing he had ever tasted. Legitimately, he bit into it and could not contain his repulsion to this gray sausage. Now, I tasted it, and it tasted exactly like nothing. No joke. I put it in my mouth, and I did not taste anything. I just knew that I was chewing. Like, it tasted like what you think gray would taste like, which to me is nothing. But he hated it, and I had a currywurst, which was pretty okay, but like it wasn't the greatest thing I'd ever had. It just wasn't made that well, because I had currywurst a couple other times that were phenomenal. This one wasn't made that well. And so literally 4 hours there for everyone to get their food, finish it, or not finish it, because it was just so bad. And so we got out of there. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and literally right up the road is this little plaza that's got like an H&M and a Subway and a McDonald's. And so everyone was like, guys, I didn't really eat much food. Can we just go to McDonald's? And I told myself when I got there that I wasn't going to eat fast food while I was in Europe. So I didn't get anything at McDonald's. But a lot of people, they walked in there, and we walk into McDonald's, and this German McDonald's has a chili cheeseburger. And they were like, I want a chili cheese McDonald's burger. I want to know what that's like. But German chili cheese is not like American chili cheese. It's very different.
Whoa.
It's not like, because like at Sonic, for instance, chili cheese. But in Germany, it's, how do I describe this? It's chili, but instead of having like a lot of meat in there, it has no meat in there. And it's just kind of like a red sauce almost. And then the cheese that they put in there isn't like this melted cheese. It's like this, it kind of looks like a McDonald's egg, like in a breakfast sandwich. It's just kind of like folded cheese. And so I just kind of throw this red sauce and cheese on there, and they call it chili cheese, and they give it to you. So a lot of people got that because they wanted to try it. And like people were ordering ice cream cones because this McDonald's didn't do the American thing where they were like, our machine is broken. So they all got McDonald's ice cream. So a very similar experience. Everyone was just so distraught with the food that they had that they wanted McDonald's.
Yeah. We also went to Five Guys in Paris.
Five Guys in Paris?
Yeah.
What in the world?
Right? And that was amazing too. I mean, Five Guys is just great.
Right, yeah.
But we went to Five Guys at some point, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
France.
I'm feeling so nostalgic right now, dude.
Dude, that's how I was feeling last week. It was a trip down memory lane, and I need to fix that other phone so I can just go back and look at the pictures, because I haven't looked at them in a while.
Yeah. Well, this has been episode 20.
Episode 20. We are almost legal. We're 4 episodes past our ultimate power. We're almost legal. We have so many more milestones to hit, though.
So many more milestones to hit. Oh, man. All right, guys. We will see you guys again next week.
Don't know what we're talking about, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we will. We always do. See you guys next week. Bye.